Rollers spin fast. One sudden grip, and control is gone. Inside the sawmill, logs move forward in sequence, guided by powerful rollers. Sawdust drifts through the air as the machinery runs with mechanical precision. Everything appears routine as the system carries out its cycle. Mid-cycle, the roller seize unexpectedly, pulling the log too far forward. The synchronized motion breaks rhythm as the feeder pushes against resistance. The entire system strains under pressure until alarms trigger, prompting operators to shut down the line before damage spreads. Never, ever approach active rollers without guards or lockout. Once they seize, the motion continues until shut down. At a roadside repair, one truck tire under pressure unleashes a blast that shakes the entire site. The repair yard is busy, mechanics working around a heavy truck, while tools scatter across the ground. A worker leans close, inflating a massive tire as others move nearby, treating it like just another routine job. But inside the rubber, compressed air silently builds, storing an invisible and dangerous force. Without warning, the tire's structure gives way under pressure. A burst of compressed air escapes with a deep, echoing release, shaking the yard and scattering tools. Dust fills the air as workers pause, then quickly respond to secure the area and check nearby equipment. Never ever inflate or service large truck tires without protective cages or barriers. One failure under pressure can endanger everyone nearby. At a construction site alive with heavy machinery, one load drops, and no one sees it coming. Under harsh floodlights, operations hum along as a worker climbs into the feed hopper to level out stuck soil. Nearby, a loader positions itself overhead, bucket lifted to unload. Everything looks routine, until one move changes everything. The loader releases its bucket before confirming the area is clear. In seconds, tons of soil cascade into the hopper, filling the space below. Visibility from the cab is blocked, and by the time the driver realizes, the space is already engulfed. No worker should ever enter or stand inside a hopper or under a raised loader bucket during dumping operations. Always isolate the area, confirm visual clearance, and use clear communication before every release. Deep in the trench, silence holds for a second, then the soil moves. Alongside a building, crews work inside and around a freshly cut trench. One worker stands below, shovel in hand, while others remain at the edge. The walls rise steep and vertical with no shoring, no trench box, and no slope to hold the weight back. The earth looks still, but unseen pressures are already building. The trench wall begins to shift, sending layers of soil cascading inward. The ground trembles as the loose earth flows rapidly into the excavation, displacing tools and blocking access. Within moments, the work area is overwhelmed by soil movement, and the crew scrambles to secure the site. Never ever enter a trench without protective systems. Soil that looks solid can release under its own weight without warning. A towering pallet rises inside the warehouse until control slips away. Inside a crowded warehouse, boxes are stacked high, waiting to be moved. A forklift operator carefully lifts a massive pallet, guiding it toward the waiting truck. Nearby, a worker adjusts the trailer curtain, focused on his task. The aisle is tight, the cargo unstable, and the suspended load looms overhead. At first, everything seems under control as the forklift edges closer, but balance is lost. The pallet tilts off-center, its weight pulling unevenly on the forks. The load shifts out of alignment, pressing against nearby cargo and forcing the operator to halt. In seconds, the calm operation turns into a tense moment of control recovery as the unstable stack teeters in place. Never ever stand beneath or beside a suspended load. Forklift cargo can tip, tilt, or come loose without warning. Loads must be secured, paths cleared, and ground workers kept well outside the fall zone. A scaffold wobbles under a heavy lift, and in seconds, balance is gone. In a narrow alley, a scaffold is set up against the side of a building. A worker stands on top, hoisting a large air conditioning unit over his shoulders, preparing to climb. The ladder leans against the wall above, unanchored and unsupported, its position depending only on balance. The ladder wobbles sharply as weight shifts, its balance slipping away. With no stabilizers in place, the frame tilts under the load, and the scaffold begins to give way. The structure shudders, tools rattle loose, and the site erupts in confusion as the setup folds under its own strain. Never, ever carry heavy equipment up a ladder or scaffold without proper rigging, anchoring, and lifting support. Makeshift setups collapse faster than you can react. A garbage truck backs into the bay. Seconds later, it tilts forward in a shocking shift of balance. Morning at a waste processing station. A garbage truck reverses into position, its rear aligned with the intake chute. The ground is damp, the chute wide and deep. The compactor engages, pushing waste outward. At first, everything looks steady, just another routine unload, but resistance builds. The waste jams, locking inside the chute. Pressure rises through the system until the truck surges forward, its front end lifting off balance. The compactor halts mid-cycle as the vehicle tips ahead, the shift in weight turning a stable setup into a dangerous imbalance. Never, ever unload a garbage truck without stabilizers or wheel locks. A single jam can turn tons of steel into a tipping hazard. On a busy construction site, a suspended load shifts, and work on the ground changes instantly. Workers move between stacks of materials while a crane handles lifts overhead. A large bundle of wooden formwork is being guided across the yard, swaying slightly as it travels into position. From a distance, the operation looks routine with no sign of the risk above. The rigging loosens, and the bundle begins to separate mid-lift. Wooden sections tilt out of line, shifting the load's center of gravity. Never, ever walk or work beneath a suspended load. Once the line is broken, gravity leaves no time to react. On the factory floor, molten metal meets pressure, and control slips in a flash. Operators stand near a high-pressure die casting machine, monitoring cycles as molten metal is formed. The process is intense. Heat, hydraulics, and precision timing working together. But with a hydraulic core hose connection removed, unseen energy is still present in the system, and the risk grows silently. As molten metal flows, pressure inside the chamber rises unevenly. A hydraulic leak meets the heat, and the system's balance shifts. In moments, vapor builds and light flickers across the workspace as operators react to the loss of control, halting the process before the hazard escalates. Never, ever service or adjust hydraulic systems while the machine is alive. Stored pressure and molten metal together can unleash instant, uncontrollable danger. A glass rack rolls on a pallet jack, then one tilt changes everything. Inside a glass fabrication shop, tall racks hold massive panels upright in steel frames. A worker maneuvers a manual pallet jack beneath one of the racks, preparing to move it across the floor. At first, the load appears steady. The wheels glide, the frame stays vertical, and the motion feels routine. As the pallet jack rolls forward, the rack starts to lean. Its center of gravity shifts slightly offline, and the load wobbles under its own weight. The worker halts as the frame tilts precariously, just enough to reveal how easily tons of glass can lose balance in motion. Never, ever move oversized glass racks with a pallet jack. Glass demands stability. Specialized dollies, clamps, and guided handling are the only safe way. One tilt is all it takes for tons of fragile weight to turn a workspace into a collapse zone. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.